When we talk about stories of how we met the Lord, it's funny how God touches our hearts, and and we change and we become that person. I got touched by the Lord in a funny way as well. I had spent like years, I think it was almost 3 years, just feeling something was missing in my life. The funny thing is that whenever I went to a funeral, somehow I would start, wondering about if that was me lying dead. I mean, is this all my life? Is that all there is? And I didn't have much. Didn't have much. I hadn't done much, and I'm a person that, was raised without a lot of love, and there was a lot of sibling rivalry as well, and um, all those things. And I went to boarding school when I was 9 years old. And I know some kids went when they were younger, but boarding school is a challenge. It's good, parents say, oh, my child is at boarding school. But one thing at boarding school is you learn how to have to stand up for yourself, you learn how to defend yourself, you have to do everything yourself. And I started at a very early age. And even coming home during the holidays was so much fun. My dad was almost the only person on my side most of the times. And so it was a bit tough for me growing up as well. So I learned to look after myself, defend myself, and stand up for myself. And so growing up like that, um, I was very independent. I could do things my own way. I could bulldoze and get what I needed. And, I did what I had to do just to get the results I needed. So after that, when God started speaking to me, I realized even when I was at those funerals, that was God speaking. That Gertrude, are you really happy with your life? Is this all that you would want yourself to be remembered by? Is this all you could have achieved in your own life? And I was so touched. Every time I went to a funeral, I would feel like, oh, if this is me, my goodness, what have I achieved? Yes, I went to school, I have worked, I've had children, of course, but then what? What else? What else is there? Is that all there is to life? That you just live? You are born, you go to school, you get work, you start working, you start getting material things, and you have children, or if you get married, all those things. Is that all there is to life? There must be something more than that. And I felt it all the time, but I didn't know what to do. I actually grew up in the Anglican church. We would go to the Anglican church all the time. My grandmother was one person who prayed every day. She read the Bible every day. She was that lady. She would go out and evangelize in the rural areas, pray for people, and we just went to church because in my grandmother's house it was law. You either went to church or you didn't eat. So, yeah, and so we're so used to going to church, and I went to a Roman Catholic boarding school, so it was church all the time. And it was there as well I started learning the power of prayer, even at that early age. And yeah, so it was through this hunger that I had that one day I was really searching and feeling that hunger in my heart. And who do I meet? I meet Jehovah's Witnesses. And so they came and they started studying with me for 2 years. They came without fail. Every week they came. And when they started with me, and I went to their kingdom hall, but I felt, no, that was not for me. It wasn't. It just didn't work out for me. I couldn't even imagine myself spending my life being a Jehovah's Witness. And yeah, I sort of even didn't understand their theology and what they were standing for. I really couldn't understand it. And so I left that. And I would go to different churches, but I never found what I was looking for. That emptiness was still there, something was still missing. I'm trying to cut a long story short here. And yeah, so it was one time I thought, no, there's no point of going to church anymore. So what I did was, what I would do is, I would go to work throughout the week. Saturdays, then you go to town. That's when you do your shopping, you do your hair, you do your nails, whatever we used to do. And then on Sunday, that's when I would like do my thorough cleaning of the house, and then I would do my washing. So one day I was doing my washing because that time the house I lived in, we didn't wash in the house, the washing machine. So I was outside doing my hand washing, and I went into the house to my bedroom to get something. And while going there, the TV was on in the lounge, so I stopped to watch. Those days with the black and white TVs, we hadn't had the color TVs yet. So I was watching this black and white TV, and then John Austin was preaching. That's Joel Austin's dad. And he preached a very, very simple message. And when I heard that message, somehow I knew that's what I was looking for. I knew it. He just preached about the parable of the man who bought a field that had treasure in it. He went and sold everything he had. He came and bought the field and got the treasure. And then he says to me, you are the treasure. The field is the world, and God has sent his son to pay the price to get you. And that for me was like, wow, this is what I've been looking for. So I got on my knees and gave my life to the Lord. And here I am. So many years later, that was in 1995. And so many years later, I'm still here and going strong with the Lord. And I thank God that he has been searching for me all my life. I'm not saying he didn't know where I was, but just pursuing me all those years. And even those times I ignored him, but finally I knelt down that day and said, yes, Lord, here I am, and I love you, Lord. So yeah, that's my story, and I just wanted to share that and encourage somebody. God loves you.